Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, today, after my recent Airfix meltdown with the 109, which we won't go over again, but I've calmed down now. I've taken some meds. I'm going to be a good boy today, behave myself. I'm afraid that, you know, the way I reacted, I think was very understandable, judging by people's comments and reactions. Yeah, that was not Airfix's finest hour, was it? I will just say I have contacted Dale at Airfix about it and shown him the photographs. As I record this, he probably hasn't seen the video yet, but I think he's going to be even more shocked when he does see the video by the images, because it's hard to show it in a still photograph really, but when you see it turn around and, you know, just the level of quality issue that there was in that kit was, on a couple of the most critical sprays, was just unacceptable, I'm afraid. And he agreed. In fairness, you know, I was very polite in my but very, very firm in my view, and I said I was deeply disappointed. I thought the quality was completely unacceptable, and how on earth could this happen yet again? And he actually said that he had no words, which is, I realise it must come as a big shock to him on a Friday afternoon, last thing as well. So it must have ruined his weekend really, because he obviously knows that there is another issue, and it may be, I don't know how widespread it is, I've got no idea. I'll have to perhaps tune into some other reviews, see if other people get the same problem, but it's very, very poor, I'm sorry. I just don't think, from what I'm seeing, that Indian factory can produce what it needs to produce for Airfix, and I think they should look somewhere, find another supplier. It's as simple as that. That's my view, until I'm proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong. I thought I'd be proven wrong this time, but it's not the case. And it's damaging that brand so badly. But anyway, he was very courteous, and he said that he was going to send another kit out. Well, I do hope he checks it this time, because there's no point in sending like we did with the Stalwart, and we had another kit sent out that had other issues, different issues. And it's just not the case when you get other manufacturers. You know, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you buy, you know, a Tamiya kit, you get a good kit, don't you? Eduard, we're going to look at in a second. Yes, same again. I'm not their biggest fan, but I'll talk about that in a second. But there's a consistency there. There's a consistency of quality, of mass production, that you're not getting with the Airfix from this Indian factory, unfortunately. I do wish they'd put that ME109 in UK production. I think we'd be having a much more pleasant conversation about it. It's frustrating, you know, and I'm sure he's frustrated. So he wasn't too well back in the summer, so I don't wish to make his life any more difficult, but at the end of the day, he's got to delegate this to people who are going to find a solution, and a permanent one that is urgent, frankly. But anyway, won't go on about that today. I've said my piece. I say I've calmed down. I think it was shock. I was so shocked, you know. It was just shock and frustration that you saw with me on that review. But anyway, today, something a bit different. So we've got the Eduard. Well, I'll say that. So let me just get the elephant in the room regarding Eduard out the way. God, Eduard and me have had a rather rocky relationship. I get a lot of unpleasant abuse. Wouldn't be too strong a word. Sometimes from people in the Czech Republic, and they are convinced, some of these people, that I don't like the Czechs or it's nationalistic. You couldn't be more wrong. We drive a Skoda, which we've had for years, and we keep like a brand new car because we love it so much. It's probably one of the best cars we've ever had. So we got no. I had friends from the Czech Republic when I used to live elsewhere, good friends, and there's no truth in that whatsoever. It's nothing to do with nationalism or anything silly like that, or politics. It's just Eduard. I just find them a little bit frustrating. Now, other people don't agree with me, and I respect that. No problem, as long as you don't get abusive about it. Other people have had good experiences, and there's a lot of kits that, you know, I've only made a handful, yes. My issue has generally been that when you open the box, they look brilliant. It's a little bit like the Kinetic Sea Harrier, but not as bad. I'm not tainting them with that brush. But it is like that, in as much as that you look at do the inbox review, and they always look brilliant, to be honest, the Eduard kits. They do. All the ones I've done have looked absolutely fantastic. And then when I build them, I find them a real struggle in places. I don't always think their instructions are super clear, and the fit isn't always very good. You know, inferior to Airfix, quite frankly, in terms of things like fit and instructions. So, you know, I'm not that big a fan of them, and I've made this very plain. So, good friend of the channel, Chris Jones has come forward, Chris Usher, has come forward and said, look, I've got this P-40E Warhawk, would you like to review it? Have you ever seen it before? I said, well, no, I haven't, and actually it's quite a nice subject. Let me zoom you in. It always reminds me of the Pearl Harbor movie, because of course 2 of these took on the Japanese rather late in the day, but took on the Japanese and accounted for about 5 or 6, I think, between them. That might be the movie, I can't remember the exact numbers, but there was a handful of planes were shot down by these 2 ace pilots. Played in the movie by Josh Hartnett and Ben Affleck, of course. And it was actually one of the best parts of that movie, that sequence. But a very aggressive looking, interesting plane, which gave a good account of itself. It did get surpassed by in the mid-late stages of the war, of course, by the Corsair and the Hellcat, things like that. But it was a very, very good plane, and it was just in the right place at the right time at the start of the war. So the early Pacific theatre, you'd see these all over the place. And of course they were flown by the Flying Tigers in China as well. Anyway, let's have a look at what we got there. So Chris has said, why don't you look at this? And I said, yeah, I like the subject, let's have a look. So it's 48 scale, kit number 82241. Now, oh sorry, and I forgot to mention my other issue with the Eduard offering, of course. She's not going to come as any surprise to regular viewers. My other issue is their recent decal since 2021, where they've got this strange top film that they've put on top, and people are always in this dilemma of whether to remove the film or not. Chris has said he's not going to remove the film, and he's already had some success doing that, not removing it, I mean, with his Mustang. It's a lovely Mustang P-51D. I think it looks really nice, so I think that's the way to go, is just leave the stupid top film on. I personally think the best solution is a good clear coat before you put the decals on, and then a really good thick clear coat on the top, and that'll just bond it all in, and hopefully you won't have any issues. But we have also had some very poor printing from them in the past, around this time, during this era of having these problematic decals. So we'll judge this with a completely... I haven't seen an Eduard kit now for 2 years, since I finished my Zero, the Tora Zero. Let's take a look at what we got inside, and I keep an open mind, which I always do. So, made in the Czech Republic. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I say, I've had friends from the Czech Republic, 3 friends from the Czech Republic, and I've got a car. Till to this day, we drive every day from the Czech Republic, and it's brilliant. So, let's just hope Eduard don't let the Czech Republic down again. Anyway, let's have a look. So we've got, this is what we always get, lots of schemes, which again I like as an idea. I think that's absolutely brilliant. So what have we got here? Have we got any Flying Tigers? We have got the Flying Tigers. Yes, this first one I'm pretty sure is the Flying Tigers. On the left there, that one. Because it is, it says China, 1942. Perhaps that'll be made clearer inside. Then we've got the Aleutian Islands, that's up at, just past Alaska, of course, in the North Pacific. We've got, obviously, the Japanese would be active in that area as well. We've got the Libya, we've got North African scheme here, RAF scheme. Then we've got Port Moresby, New Guinea, which is not far from the coast of Australia, of course. And then we have got Darwin in Australia itself, here. And then we've got Espirito Santo, 1943. Espirito Santo, my memory's failing me. Royal New Zealand Air Force. Yeah, somewhere down in the Philippines, isn't it? Anyway, right, let's have a look at what we got. Let's have a look. Now, I'm going to try not to have any more ranting, because I think I've done enough ranting recently. I had a good old rant about packaging just before Telford, and I went to Telford, and then Airfix made my weekend with that lovely 109, and then, as we know, the actual thing that they delivered did not match what we saw at the show. Anyway, enough of that. We'll let Dale do what he's got to do, and perhaps come back with an explanation of what on earth has happened there. Because it's very disappointing. It's bad for the hobby, I think. I think if they can't get the sort of guarantees in writing, you know, that are underwritten by financial penalty clauses with that supplier, they should just drop them. It's as simple as that, really. And that's my view, and I'm going to say that. Right, let's see what we've got here then with our friends at Eduard. Let's see if we can have a good day with Eduard. Because I always say this, I'd like to have a good day with Eduard. Well, one thing I don't like about Eduard historically is the way that they've done their clear parts. I might start with that. Let's get the instructions down first. You know that they used to do it on this sort of a wheel thing, which I never liked. A bit balmy. Decals, getting nervous already. One thing that they are very good at, though, of course, is giving you some history about the subject, which I think is essential. And they've done, this too much for me to read. I'll just give you the headline. Although not the best fighter of its time, the Curtiss P-40 line played a significant role in air operations in the Pacific, Mediterranean and the African theatres of operations. Limited by its engine with a one-stage compressor, it was always a fighter for lower altitudes. So when I had my recent Spitfire flight, you see the certificate behind me there. That was, of course, with the Packard Merlin engine, and that was specifically designed for lower altitudes. So it's not the sort of thing that would be used for escorting bombers in the ETO, European Theatre of Operations. Yeah, there is a write-up here that is very extensive. The whole page is in English, which I congratulate Eduard on. That's very good. A really detailed, I won't read it because I'll just be here all day, but it's a very, very detailed history, and that is brilliant. So, looking good so far. Now then, shall we look at the decals first? Shall we look at the decals first? Because I tend to do that. Then I'm going to look at the decals, then the instructions. Okay, so, here we go. Now they do these resealable bags, which I also think are great. And that's good for crisp. I can put it back as it was. Now what have we got here? We've got two lots of decals. One's stencils and one's decals. My cuppa. Which you'll notice that the Airfix mug has disappeared. And the badge. Right. Okay. So, of course, this is a great controversy in recent years with Eduard, as I mentioned, is the decals. I lost my control. They do their own, and frankly, they've not been a great success compared to the likes of the Cartograph ones, which I think everybody feels is probably superior. Here's your stenciled decals. So, nice bit of covering paper. I won't take it off completely. That's fine. Then we've got the ones that make me really nervous. So I'm going to peel this off, I think. Now it's very hard to tell looking at them. No, it isn't. No, it isn't hard to tell. Take that back. If you look very carefully, you can see that this is the new generation because they have this overly, shall we say, the shadow of the. We used to call it the backing film, but it isn't, of course. It's actually now the top film. There's a shadow around the actual decal itself. You can see it there, can't you? And that is this top film, which I don't really care for. Now we've also had some printing issues. Now I've got to be brutally honest with you. The long sigh. Here we go. You ready for this? Look carefully at the shark's mouth. Look carefully. The printing does not look very special. In fact, it's quite mottled on the black. It's most noticeable on the black, but also the red's a bit wishy-washy on colour. I don't know if you can see this, if the camera's really giving you the same effect that I can see in my eyes. Not great. This is what people have moaned about the printing quality. I'm not sure that this is their greatest decals. The graphics are lovely, don't get me wrong, the designs are lovely. I like the tiger, the flying tiger, where it's got the exhaust coming out through the tiger's face. But again, we've got this sort of blotchiness, the colours look a bit off. I'm starting to think, right, I'm going to just take a punt on this. I think I may have made a discovery here. Somebody said to me in a comment about 10 days ago, somebody said to me that I moaned about some of the ICM decals on the Beaufort and one of the Marauders, I think. And he said, I think that they're being done for them by Eduard. Now I'm looking at this, and the shading of the blue reminds me of those ICM decals. So I've got no fact, I'm just speculating now, but I do think that gentleman who made that comment was correct. I think, looking at this, look at the blues here for the Southeast Asia RAF markings. Sorry, it's the Australian ones, isn't it? But just look at the blues here. Can you see? I wonder if the camera's going to pick this up or not. But there's a very mottled, bit of a wishy-washy. Yeah, I'm not really talking about the top film. I'm talking more about the colour densities. It's not brilliant, I've got to be honest. That's not like, you know, I mean, I grumbled about Airfix's 109, but the decals themselves were, well, the ones that were included, if you know what I mean. The decals were beautiful, the Cartograph decals. Very bright, very sharp. These are very, very milky and a bit wishy-washy. And I think that gentleman who made that comment was onto something. I think he's nailed it. I think they are indeed making them now for ICM. In fact, I might ask ICM directly if that is true. Whether they tell me, that's another matter. I think they need to go back in their bag. If that is the case, that slightly worries me. For lots of obvious reasons. What is that? Have we got that open or not? I'm on the right side even. That's quite tricky. Yes, those of you looking at my finger will be chuckling and saying, just be more careful when you're peeling your spuds. Oh, it's that side, I've got it wrong side. Yes, I chopped the end of my finger off, which is why I've got this rather strange little finger. And you can't have it in the glove because it sweats and that's not good. And you don't want to see it on the outside, I can assure you. It is not a pretty sight. Anyway, okay, well let's just remember Chris has very kindly provided this, so we don't want to be too critical when somebody has generously loaned it to me. But I'm a bit worried about those decals, and it's given me wider concerns now. I'm thinking that some of these ICM decals, maybe not all of them, but I think Eduard are getting involved in their production too. Can we get it in? That's the way. We must get it back to the gentleman as it came. There we go. Super! Right, that's a good start then. Apart from the blotches. Right, let's have a look at the old instructions then. Now, I'm not a big fan of their instructions because I find that the way that they print it, they have this very fine line drawings, which I sometimes find that, you know, if you compare them to the likes of Airfix, this is one area where they're brilliant now. Airfix or Tamiya or Tsukimura, okay, they're a bit over detailed, a bit busy perhaps, or Qatari, they've all got much brighter, clearer instructions. And I do find that the way Eduard sort of illustrate things, they do a lot of fine work, sometimes showing bits that are perhaps unnecessary, and not bold enough is my biggest complaint. Anyway, I build the bar seat, and then you've got the framework with the back plate behind, headrest and the armour plating. At least it's got some, not like a zero, yeah? Then you got your seat belts going in. Instrumentation going in there for you've got decals as part of the instrument setup for all the dials. Then you've got your side, it's detail, isn't it? Lots of detail here. You've got your side, cockpit sides with all the controls, and your radio, and your oxygen system, and what else we got there? On the other side we've got the things like the throttle controls, all very conventional stuff. And then you're going to bring the two sides in together around your now built sort of seat area with the instruments to form like a cockpit tub. All very conventional stuff. And then finally you've got your pedals going in last. Interesting. And then over on the other side we've got our exhausts coming in. Let's just zoom in a little bit more. Forgive me, I'll have a slurp of Porsche coffee. Then you've got your intake, your engine intake going in here, complete with the filters, with some PE parts. Eduard are very good at that. They give you a complete set of everything in this box is what you need. Masks, PE parts, the lot. So then we've got this like a PE structure, which, what is that actually? That's part of the flap system, which opens and closes the flaps for the radiators. And then you're going to bring all that in, that intake assembly here. plus your cockpit, and bring it in between the two fuselage sides. Then we've got our exhaust coming in here, either side. You've got your side glass, because it's got this slightly unusual setup on the P-40, hasn't it, with glass at the side. I never quite understood what that was for, actually. But anyway, it's not an aircraft I'm super familiar with, the P-40. Then you're going to build up your wheel wells with canvas covers, which is all explained, which I applaud Eduard for doing this. It's all clear. So a description, which we don't really get with ICM, which I did learn about. Then we've got the lower wing, and we've got the lower fuselage central section, and these wheel wells that you've just built up are going to go in attached to the top wing, and then you're going to bring the two wings together. You've got your ailerons going in there. Looks like we haven't got any flaps on this one. And you've got your guns, which I think I'm right in saying, I think they're 50 cals. I think so. I think that there are 3 of them on each side, so you get 6 in total. And on this side we've got we've got the horizontal tail plane here going in, and you're going to put in your rudders then here. Sorry, beg your pardon, we just had somebody at the door, I think. A voice in the background. Putting in your rudder sort of activation rod for the rudder, and the rudder itself going in there. So your elevators and your rudder are now on. And then it shows you the angles of how everything should look. And then finally you're going to bring your fuselage down on top of your main wing assembly. You've got your lights going in there. Underneath you've got your little bit more of the bodywork just behind the radiator flap, or the oil killer flap. Actually it is radiator and oil killer, isn't it there? And you've got your lights going in here, and you're going to build up your wheels and tyres. I don't know if they're weight on wheels, it doesn't show them as such. We'll see. But there's some very nice, some PE, which I'm not PE's biggest fan these days, but some great detail here for your hydraulic lines, for your brakes, which is cool. So it's a little bit fiddly, but you're just going to have to take your time and get that put in there. Then you're going to mount your undercarriage. And then over on this side, what is that? Sorry, it doesn't explain what it is. What is that? Oh, it's part of the yes, it's part of the twist and turn mechanism, because it has this weird twist and turn on the undercarriage legs, of course, on the P-40, because it saves space. So it twists and turns on sort of a cam action, and then folds into the wing without any gear doors, of course, which is what makes it a bit unusual. And then you're going to put your doors in. You got your rear tail wheel going in here. Shows you the angles of what wheels should look like. Then we're going to build up our canopy, cockpit canopy, spinner and the prop, and then bringing in the prop, and you've got a couple of antennas, gun sight, a pitot going on the wingtip, and you've got a little hole here you've got to fill. Kind of annoying when they do that, but anyway. And you've got a little bit of rigging for the low frequency, high frequency aerials. And then you've got some weapons, so you've got some bombs here. It doesn't say what it is, I think it's a £250 bomb. You've got drop tank options, you've got a smaller bomb, perhaps £125, something like that. And you've got all these options which can go on the central ventral mounting point only, it seems. And that's it. And then we get the guide for the masks, which is very helpfully included, all pre-cooked for you. And they do them like a colour guide here, which is quite helpful in fairness. I like that. Also, they want you to do liquid mask for the what's that for? For the tyre, I think it is. And then we get again lots of interesting data about the aircraft, which I really do like. So this is an area where I think Eduard are doing it very, very well. So we've got the Flying Tigers, yes. Cheno's Flying Tigers, the American volunteer group, there we go. David Lee Tex Hill was the most successful ace. That's very cool, isn't it? So that's going as that option. And you've got your traditional Flying Tigers, little sort of the Flying Tigers sort of Chinese sort of markings. And then we've got the Port Moresby New Guinea option. And then actually it's the Aleutian Islands one that's got the sort of tiger face on it, which I thought was the Flying Tigers. I was wrong. US Army markings under that one. What else we got? We've got the Darwin, Australia, Stardust. That's another nice one. You've got a good range of marking options. And then we've got this, the Tunisian, sorry, Libyan one, beg your pardon. Libyan North African one. And then finally the Espirito Santo, which is near Tonga. New Caledonia, that part of the Pacific, South Pacific. With the Royal New Zealand Air Force markings, which looks really cool. So you've got a really good, you know, this part of Eduard's presentation is really excellent. You've got all the stencils made very, very clear. And then at the back there's some extras you can get as well if you wish. Some PE and resin sets are available. Fantastic. Now in fairness to them, that is... I thought the clarity of that was a bit better than they can. Sometimes they can be really faint and I find them very hard to follow, but that was pretty clear, I thought. Yeah, that was one of the better instruction books, I think. Did we check a date on this? I didn't do that for you, did I? 2025. So it is one of the very latest kits this year. Okay, fair enough. That would explain it. I've got a couple of adverts for Flory there. Flory washes, I use those myself. I can recommend them. Anyway, let's just move on and have a look at... Oops. The actual kit parts itself. So we've got the masks. Now we talked about masks recently, didn't we, with the Airfix mask, which are actually made for them by Cartograph, and I did some testing on those. I didn't have any Eduard to test, and I'm just wondering about this issue that we had. I talked about the quick tack, the stickiness of them. Well, it wouldn't be fair to mess it up for crisp, so I won't do that. But this has got lots and lots of windows, so generally speaking, Eduards are pretty good. I have had them lift up occasionally, just once or twice in the past, but generally they work pretty well, to be fair. So that's good. Then we've got some photo etch, and this looks really nice, I've got to tell you. Now they do this really, really well, and I think it tends to work quite well in their own kits. When I've struggled, like I've been doing with the Mosquito, it's when that they are perhaps for other people's kits and the fit isn't as good as it might be. I have to tell you now, these are looking a bit special. Check this out. Look at the colourings here. I think they've made a bit of a step forward in their process. Instead of having these like the Zoom kits where they're a bit washed out, look at this. Can you see the tonal range that's in some of the colours here? On things like here on the instrumentation on the side, it's gone away from this sort of rather blotchy looking, wishy-washy, weird sort of bluey grey colour, and it looks like it's got proper authentic... Can I get any closer with focus? Yes, there. Proper authentic colours, and again here on the seat belts as well. Can you see that? It's got some proper colour tonal range on them. That looks really nice. That's one of the nicer of the PE sets from Eduard I've ever seen, actually, even though it's only a small one. It's just got some more colour quality and realism. Some more realism. Again, on the other part of the seat belt here, which I think is on the other side, it's got multiple colours and sort of a tonal range in the printing. It looks a lot nicer, doesn't it? That's really rather a nice fret, isn't it? I don't know why it's got a bend in it. That's not me, by the way. Somebody's been a bit clumsy putting it in. That's a really nice fret of PE, to be fair. So that's promising. I know I was recently been quite disparaging about PE in my experiences with the Mosquito, which was Eduard, but it is like 10-12 years ago that was actually produced. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. And I just get the feeling that at the time, it's as though they'd sort of stopped moving forward. The quality wasn't getting any better. They were just churning it out in these weird sort of Same with the Tornado, the GR4, GR1. Some rather lacklustre frets, to be quite honest with you, that didn't look particularly realistic, but that does. That's really nice. I'm quite enthused about it. That's good. Let's just make sure that is sealed for him. Don't want it to get bent or escape. Now then, clear parts. As I mentioned at the beginning, not a big fan of the Eduard ones, but that was when they put it on this weird wheel, which I thought again was a bit of a thing for cost. I didn't really like it. Now they've gone to a more conventional setup. It's very nice. I have to say, it's not the clearest of clear parts I've ever seen, which is slightly odd. I'm trying to think what my Zero was like. I think that they were a little bit sharper and clearer than this, crisper. I don't know if you're going to see what I mean here, but there's a slight cloudiness to it, which I wasn't really expecting. I mean, this is not ICM grade, is it? Or like the new Airfix 109 that I grumbled about. This is not one of the areas that I criticised. I thought it was, on their 24 scale kit, I thought it was one of the best clear parts I'd seen this year, up there with the, the ICM Marauder, etc. These are a bit old. Nothing wrong with them. Well, I say that, I can see there is some kind of crazing. Can you see that windscreen, the one on the right? They're not the best, are they? They're not. There's not a lot of distortion, but there's just like crazing in the surface almost. It's almost like the tool wasn't clean or something. A bit strange. It does look very cloudy, even at the side. They're not up to the standard of other manufacturers, which a little bit surprised about that. I mean, just seeing that PE, which was as good as anything I've seen, it's a bit lacklustre. There's nothing specifically bad about it. It's just a bit dull looking, a bit cloudy looking. Do you know what I mean? Strange. I don't know why that would be, really. Can't recall them having had bad clear parts before, or disappointing. It's been okay in that area. Let's have a look at the rest of it then. Generally, their grey plastic is really nice. It's just a question of whether it fits that always causes me some sleepless nights. So let's have a look at what we've got here. First of all, we've got a lot of the ancillaries around the cockpit and the prop. So let's have a look at that. So the propeller, they've moulded that very, very nicely indeed. Perfectly even, because look at where they put the sprue gate contact point. Just somewhere where it's never going to be seen, even if you didn't clean it up, quite frankly. Don't think you'd see it, would you? That's perfect. A beautiful prop. Then we've got the instrumentation dials here. Panel, I should say. And then we've got these cockpit sides. Now, my only criticism would be that they look beautiful. The only criticism would be, you've got to remember, you have to remove some of this to put that darned PE on. This is one of the things that always annoys me about Eduard. Why do they mould it in and provide the PE as well? So you have to then start removing what they've moulded in. I don't understand it. If they're going to offer it with that PE set, why did they mould it in the first place? It's kind of a bit strange. But they are well up to their usual standards of quality here. There's no warped parts here. Airfix, please take note. This is a really nice sprue. Super, super fine parts. Look at those wheels and the spokes, that's nice. Yeah. And then we've got two different types of wheels, wheels and tyres. Slightly different different tread, is it? Or is it just different? No, sorry, it's just one option. Sorry, the two sides are different, of course. One's got a different sort of facing for the hub. Again, here we've got some beautiful, really nicely moulded. These are. This is why people sort of get cross at me and rave about Eduard and say their moulding's brilliant, blah blah blah. I never disputed that. I've never complained about the moulding. Look at the fineness of this stuff. It's brilliant. They are almost the kings of the very fine parts. There's your wheel hubs there. But look at these tiny parts here. And then you got this is where your tail wheel fits in. And you've got another instrument panel there. There must be another option. I suspect that's another version there. And then there's also another plate here, which looks like the back plate for the seat. So again, there must be two versions, I think, in this kit. But look at the fineness and the finesse of these parts. No flash, tiny, tiny. You've got to be careful. One thing I do struggle with sometimes, their parts are very, very fine. There's quite a lot of them. And the carpet monster could get you if you're not careful. So just be wary. But it's a nice sprue. I mean, really flawless, that one. Let's be fair. Nothing to see here. Right, well, we've got this one then. So this is the wings. And here we're going to see some of the, don't forget this is the latest kit from Eduard, so it should be good. It should be good. And I'm delighted to say it is. Look at this. Look at the finesse here of those, the panel lines and the riveting. And some of the detail there that's around the, where the gear mounts. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. That's beautiful. Really, really nice. And then on the top wing, again, lovely panel lining, subtle riveting. You can feel the panel lines, but you can't feel the rivets because they're so subtly done. One area where Eduard are particularly good. Now, just wind back and just have a quick word here. I'm going to have a quick slurp of coffee and a quick word about this, because there's something coming that I'm going to be showing you in a couple of weeks. It's the new Hurricane, the Battle Britain Mark 1 Hurricane from Armour Hobby. And there was one of these in the competition area at the show at Scale Model World at Telford. Beautifully made, beautifully painted and everything. So if the gentleman's watching that did that, hats off to you. But, and this has nothing to do with the gentleman, but Armour have got this kind of obsession, and it was very evident. I got into a discussion, I stood next to Jason from Model Kit Stuff, we were talking about this, and we were both agreeing that this riveting that they'd gone, it was a bit heavy and a bit out of scale and a bit overdone in a way that this isn't. And you'll see what I mean. I'll get into that when we see that kit, because I presume that it's going to be the same. But check this out, because this is how it should be done. This is super, super fine, a bit like we've seen on the test shots of the ICM Hampden. Super fine riveting detail. It's not, you can't feel it. It's not overdone. And unfortunately, this Hurricane, I say it was nothing to do with the modeller. He'd done a beautiful job of it. Superb work. But the manufacturer just got a bit heavy with their moulding, I think. So I'm not entirely convinced about that kit. We'll have a look at it at a later date. Here, though, it's very subtle. It's just right, you know, for the scale. And then we've got our ailerons over here. Nothing wrong with that. So far, I'm very impressed with the actual plastic. Let's have a look at the... he says, and then he encounters a load of flash. Do I? Is it flash? It is. I spoke too soon. Yep, we've got some flash. So I did speak too soon. Is this, which one are you going to use here? Eduard P-40. Yeah, it is. So unfortunately, Eduard we're doing really well, and now they've just lost the plot. Look at the flash on top of here. Now it's not, you know, at the end of the day, it's not a deal killer. But you can see it's not just that part either. If you come down here, if the camera would just give me a bit of focus, look, you can see it on the end of the tip of the prop as well. This is, yeah, that's quite a bit of flash actually. See that? Get a bit closer. Tip of the prop again. So something's gone a bit wrong here. There's flash appearing all over the place. It's not gross. A bit unfortunate on those prop tips though. That's a little bit tricky to clean up there. But it's not the end of the world, you know. Yeah, again, you've got some of it. You've got some of it here as well. Can you see it? On the tab here, that's quite flashy as well. So that's a bit of a shame really, because that other sprue, those are the two sprues, are beautiful. flawless. Anyway, we'll have a look at the actual finishing. The finishing is beautiful. Panel lines and what have you. I haven't got any horribly warped sprue. So that's okay. So just a bit disappointed in that. I don't know why this one particular sprue, is it an older sprue? Well, it's supposed to be 2025 and the other looks so clean and perfect. It seems a bit strange. Not the end of the world, but yeah, it's not as good as the rest, is it? Probably not going to get a 10 now. That's what I'm saying. It's like a dirty tool or something, maybe. Final bag. And we've got 2 sprues. Strange that they come with these funny marks on the second time we've got a strange mark on the centre of the actual sprue at the pivot, the central mounting point. Can you see it here, right in the centre? It's got like it's almost like a Sharpie pen has been used on it. It's very odd. Anyway, we've got our guns over here, which do look pretty good actually. Where they come out the wing and the muzzle. And then we've got our intake here for the radiators, the oil cooler. And we've got some more parts of it there that go, they're actually mounted a bit further back. And you got some parts of on the side of the fuselage here and here. And then we seem to have got some alternative wheels with treads on, so I'm not sure. A little hint of flash creeping in. Can you see it on this one? A little bit flashy. Not badly. Quick swipe of the sanding stick should fix it. And then you've got your radiator flaps, and you've got your drop tanks. Here's your spinner, which looks really nice. Yeah, it's a nice one actually. Internal trunking for the ducting for the radiators. A little bit more. This is the alternative. Sorry, here. Sorry. This is the alternative if you're going to have the mounting for the drop tank or bomb in the ventral position. And then over here we've got the seat. And one or two other small parts. But that's very nice, apart from a bit of flash creeping in again. Disappointment. Got to say, I expect anyone not to be doing that, especially when you see this sprue, which has got none that I can see. This is really beautiful. And it's got all the fine, really tricky stuff to mould on it. Look at this. All the mountings for the bombs or the drop tanks. You've got your exhaust exit pipes, although I'm a little bit disappointed to see that they've done the classic thing of Airfix and Tamiya of sticking the contact point right in the middle of the actual exhaust pipe, in the worst possible place, instead of putting it the other way around. That's annoying. It's better on these ones here, it's at the front. Yeah, it's a bit strange really. There's 2 different types, isn't there? 2 different designs. Then over here we've got our bombs, 125 or 250 pounds. And then we've got some of the internal walls for the gear wells in the landing gear wheel well bay. And then which way around is this supposed to be? That way. So then we've got some, looks like it's rockets. Is it rockets? Yeah, rockets. Underwing rockets, which I don't think were mentioned in the instructions, so maybe, again, another version at play here. And some mountings here for the rockets, I think it is. Yep, we can see they are rockets because you can actually see the back of them. It has the fuse tabs on it at the back of the pipes. But you know, you can see there's some very, very fine work going on here, and there's no flash there at all. So it's a bit curious, isn't it, that they've got this flash problem in some areas. Not serious, but annoying in one or two places where you've got difficult clean-up, like the prop tips. And then you get a sprue like this with some of the most tricky to mould, tiny, complicated parts. And it's got no flash on it at all. It's a bit strange, isn't it? Now, I think the moulding, one or two of the design choices, like the exhaust, is not the greatest. The moulding is very, very... Somebody's written 2 on that. Or is that Chris? I wonder if this is Chris. Ah, maybe it's Chris that's written these numbers on. I haven't thought of that. I don't think it was open though. Anyway. Don't know if that's the owner or the actual factory. But they've got flashing areas you wouldn't expect, and where you think that you would forgive them for having flash, there is none. A bit strange, really. Anyway, what do I think? I think it's a very interesting subject. Perhaps it's one that I don't think I've actually built a new Hawk or a Kitty Hawk. So that's to my eternal shame, really. I think the moulding tool quality is fantastic. One or two bits of flash that are slightly disturbing, shall we say, slightly worrying. But yeah, overall, very nice kit actually. What the decals are like, we don't know. I think, like Chris has suggested, of just not messing with them, not trying to remove any film. It's just going to cause a lot of problems. That I think he's probably right there. I think I'm going to give it 9.25 out of 10 because there was a few bits of flash going to require a bit of clean up. Questionable, you've got to do a bit of work to put those PE parts in, but some nice PE. Clear parts weren't the best there, were they? That hurt it a little bit. They're a bit cloudy and a bit not the finest. I don't know what's happened there, because given it's a new kit, and I don't remember the previous Eduards being something I've grumbled about on clear parts. They're usually pretty good. So not sure what's going on there. I think 9.25 is fair. I think that's pretty fair. And a good offering when you've got 6 options. So overall, 9.25 is a good score. How does that compare with previous Eduards? I'm trying to remember, really. Straight in my memory here. I think they usually get about 9, so I think it's done all right. You know, it's done quite well. And I say it's got some, yeah. Just not sure about the printing of those decals. Never mind about how you apply them, but I don't think the decals or the clear parts or the flash helped it. I think 9.25 is probably fair to generous. I think that's a good result for Eduard. Anyway, the proof of the pudding's always in the eating, because I've had too many occasions with Eduard and others where I get really excited and say what a beautiful kit it is, and then people report back, or I report back, that it's not that great to build. But who knows? Chris told me that the Mustang was nice, and I think he's going to build this one, so good luck to him with that. Please keep us posted. He's on the Flory forum like me, so he'll probably post some pictures, so I must keep my eyes peeled. So thank you very much to Chris. Don't forget to give us a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for Chris for loaning us the kit. Please give me a thumbs up and a like. Give me a 10 out of 10 as well. And that's it for now. Anyway, stay tuned. It won't be long before we've got the ICM Hampden coming to us in the not too distant future. We've also got another one from ICM, I think, in the meantime. And another loan kit from our good friend Lord Flashheart in Australia. He's loaned us a kit, and that's coming very, very soon as well. So please stay tuned. Until next time, hope you thought it was interesting and entertaining. No rants today. Didn't lose me rag. Maybe a little bit at the beginning. Still haven't quite got over it. But trying to keep you calm and stay chilled. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Stay well, stay safe. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.